What up, y'all? It's DJ Envy.
And I am Gia Casey.
And this is another edition of Pillow Talk with the Casey Crew.
Welcome.
Yes, welcome, guys. Now, if you don't know what Pillow Talk is, that's where we talk about everything pop culture and in the news. So let's get it started. Now, over the weekend, there was a story on Shade Room about a father and his son. His son was being bullied. They live in Houston. And he decided to go to the school and try to get it resolved. The school did nothing, so he talked to the bully. And I guess after talking to the bully, he realized that the bully was only bullying because he believed that the bully didn't have, I guess, clean clothes or new clothes. So he decided to take the bully on a shopping spree.
So the bully was being bullied himself.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So he took him on a shopping spree, and people were talking about it all weekend. You know, some people were saying it's a great thing, and that's what it takes. It takes a village to raise a child. And some people was like, I wouldn't do it. I necessarily wouldn't have done it. And I thought about it. We talked about it on the Breakfast Club, and I don't think I would have did it either. It's just from somebody that was bullied in school, and somebody that was dealing with being bullying because our kids were bullied for a little bit. I don't think I would, I guess, reward a bully for bullying my child. And, for my child, I wouldn't want him to think that he came to me for protection or came to me because he had a problem, and it resulted in me taking the other child on a shopping spree. Especially at age 8, when I think a lot of kids don't necessarily understand. So that was my stance. Now, the fact that the young boy, I believe, needed clothes and was homeless and didn't have clothes, that's a different conversation, in my opinion. For me, the first thing was to make sure that my son was okay and to make sure that my son was good. Because if this kid bullied my son, I would think about it. What happened if another kid did it? What happened if another kid did it? What happened if another kid did it? And not only that, was I starting a precedent? Meaning, if one kid bullies my son, I take him on a shopping spree. And what happened if another kid bullies my son? And I just wouldn't. I don't know. I don't know. And I think the first thing I would want to do is protect my son and make sure my son was good and make sure he was able to protect himself. I just remember being a kid and being bullied and coming home upset. And my dad told me, yeah, look, this is life. If you stand up to somebody, 9 times out of 10, you'll never have to stand up again. He said, you whether you win or you lose, you're not going to win every fight. You're not going to lose every fight. But the fact that you stand up to somebody will show everybody else in that school that, look, I'm no punk and you can try. Whether I win or lose, I'm going to fight. And I remember the day after school, I got into an incident and I threw the basketball right at the bully's face. And, after school, we fought and he beat me up, but it wasn't about that. It was more about I stood up and I never had a problem again. And that's what I think is needed sometimes. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's the way I would handle it. What do you think?
Well, I think that it's important to stand up to bullies. I think that if a bully thinks that they can get away with taking advantage of you and intimidating you day after day, that they'll continue to do it. But I think that this little boy, from what we know of the story, did what he was supposed to do. He came home and he told his parents.
Correct.
We don't know if he stood up to the bully. We don't know what he's being taught at home regarding bullying. But at the end of the day, what we do know is that he went home and he spoke to his parents.
Right.
His parents, in my opinion, or his father, did what he was supposed to do. He went to the school to seek assistance. When he didn't receive any assistance, he went to the kid himself, which is a bold move because, some parents would be upset that an adult approached their child. But apparently he's sane and he has his wits together, and he must have approached this child in a delicate enough way where this child felt comfortable enough to tell him what was really going on, which was that he was being bullied himself.
Right.
For being homeless, maybe for not having clothes and shoes and whatnot. And the father did what I think that any compassionate, empathetic person would do. And not to say that anybody would take the kid shopping, but he He opened up his mind to what the child was sharing with him, and he cared.
Right.
And clearly he took it a step further and said, you know what? Well, if this is what's ailing the child and causing him to be disruptive, and this is what's, really stirring him and putting him in a bad place to a point where he wants to harm other children, clearly he doesn't have the guidance. Clearly he doesn't have a home base or people to influence him to do right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to do what I can.
Right.
For him, obviously I don't know what he spent. What's maybe a few $100s to take a kid that needs the essentials shopping?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what he did. He showed him compassion and empathy, and he opened up his heart, and he opened up his wallet, and he opened up his time to him. And that could have changed that child's life forever, because what we know is that the bully and the child being bullied became friends afterward.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's all that child needed, someone to pay attention to him, because what he was doing was clearly acting out.
Right.
And he's 8 years old. He's past being a toddler. An 8-year-old has, some sense about him. But I don't think that even at the age of 8, kids turn into bullies because they just want to be mean.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times they do it because either it's something that they inherited genetically, because a lot of times our personalities and our disposition
mm-hmm.
are things that we get honestly from our parents or our grandparents or, someone in our lineage.
Right.
Or because of what they're being taught, how they're being raised,
mm-hmm.
or based on the fact that they're not being raised and they're not being taught,
right.
and they're left to their own devices. So when it's a child that's acting out like that, you have to look a little bit further. And as adults, we can't just say, oh, this little jerk, oh, this little a-hole, oh, this little kid that's hurting my child. It's, as an adult that cares, I think it takes a lot for a person to look past the hurt that their child is experiencing to see what's the root of the problem. And I have to be honest, because like you mentioned a little while ago, our kids have gone through a bit of bullying
right.
here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy to look at other kids that are hurting your kids as little jerks.
Right.
And all you want is for it to stop, and you want for the child to be punished and for them to get what they deserve, in a sense. But you got to be bigger than that. You have to look at the situation. There was a particular child that was bullying Logan, and after I spoke to the kid's father, I kind of understood why the kid was the way that he was. His father was a jerk.
Right.
His father was a jerk and kind of encouraged that kind of behavior. He was short-sighted. He was small-minded. He wasn't providing a good example
right.
for his son. And in that moment, I became a lot more understanding of the child, and what was making me upset with the child made me less upset, because I didn't find that the child was completely responsible. So you kind of live and you learn. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that your first concern, and we all know you are hyper focused on your family, protecting, providing, and your first concern is always going to be your kids.
Correct.
So I'm not taking it away from you and saying that you don't teach Logan or Madison or any of the other kids how to protect themselves, how to deal with a bully, how to stand up for themselves. But what I'm saying is, in life in general, I find that we just have to be open-minded and think about more than the immediate. Think about a little bit more than what's right in front of us. Don't just be like, okay, well, there's a problem. How do I deal with this problem? Think about, well, why is there a problem?
Right.
Why?
For sometimes, I'll be honest with you, I don't care why. I honestly don't care why, and I'm explaining to you. For me, it's a matter about the victim, right? and the person that's being hurt and the person that is hurt, which let's say it's my child that's being hurt. I don't necessarily care about the bully's feelings. What I want to do is make sure my son is or my daughter is good. And the reason I say that is you hear a lot of times about people committing suicide, people being depressed, people being in a dark place because they are being bullied and they feel like there's nothing that they can do. So my first reaction on everything is making sure my kids have the confidence where they never are in that dark hole.
And who said that can't be your first reaction?
Hold on, but that's my first reaction.
And it can be.
And I don't care about necessarily about that other kid.
See, but there's the problem.
Let me finish. For me, it's making sure my kid can stand up for themselves and understand and realize that they don't have to worry about a bully. Yeah, you can say whatever you want to say, and you know what? What did we do? What did we do? We taught our kids how to, if somebody disses you, how to diss back where you don't feel like you're attacked. You know, if you hit our kid, what did we teach? Okay, if somebody hits you, you defend yourself so that you never are in a position where you feel like you're getting beat. Because in this world is a nasty world. You know, somebody said this the other day, and it's like almost dealing every day we're in an abusive relationship.
Wait, what?
Every day it's almost like we're in an abusive relationship and we continue to take it. Think about it. Every day we open up our phone, right? And we go to social media. There's always one or two people saying something negative. Right?
I don't think that's everybody's experience.
Most people. All right, I know for me it is. There's always somebody saying something negative. But you open it up every day and you take it. It's kind of like every day I open up my phone and somebody's like, "Oh, you bitch ass, you beige bitch, you light skin this, fuck you, you ugly." I
don't know why that was
you
funny.
this, you that. Like I hear it all the time. But it's kind of like an abusive relationship because every day I click on my phone and I get a couple of these comments, and I hyper focus on what? Those comments.
As opposed to the positive.
Exactly. So it's like being in an abusive relationship where every day you get hit in the head. And if you don't have a strong backbone or a strong will, this could break you the fuck down. And you see it all the time with celebrities. You see it all the time with regular people. That's why I think a lot of times people get hooked to drugs because the drugs take them away from this abusive relationship, the social media. So going back to the kids, I try to teach the kids self-confidence and not worry about what people say because I'm preparing them for this abusive relationship that they will get one day having social media. Somebody's going to say something.
You don't have to keep showing me the phone. I know what you're talking about. He keeps showing me the phone.
But that's how I feel.
Referring to this world and social media.
And I never want my kid to feel like, oh, daddy, I came to him for protection and he bought the person that's hurting me a new clothes. You know, and I never want the person that I bought the new clothes, a new outfit for, to beat my child up wearing the new clothes that I bought him.
But Rashawn, and I hope that this doesn't come off insulting, but that's a little small-minded.
I am.
You're just going to admit it and not attempt to do better?
No, I am. It's certain things that I just don't do, and people can call me small-minded and they can call me an asshole, but that's who I am.
Well,
as
I didn't
a person.
call you an asshole. I just called you a little small-minded.
No, when it comes to the world, I support everybody. I try to, build homes in the hood to make sure low-income family has a great place to stay. I try to do as much as I possibly can for whoever I can. But when it comes to Madison, Logan, London, Jackson, Brooklyn, Gia, I don't play around, nor do I want to play. Like I just certain things I don't joke with. I don't laugh. It's not funny to me. And if you don't like it, honestly, excuse my French, you can suck my dick from the back because that's my family. And that's how I feel. And if you don't agree with me, that's cool. We don't have to agree. But that's how I feel when it comes to Madison, Logan, London, Jackson, Brooklyn, and Gia.
And I understand that. I understand you. I know you. But my family is extraordinarily important to me, but community is also important to me.
It is to me too.
And I do believe that it takes a village to raise a child. And I think that everybody in a community should do their part. And if you see something that isn't right, then you respectfully do what you can to help in that situation. And if something is screaming at you, it's in your face and it's sitting there yapping at you, and you ignore it, then what kind of person does that make you? This man went and spoke to the child in defense of his own child.
Correct.
And he learned something
Right.
through that conversation. So what kind of man would he have been to take that information and still look at that child on an immature level and not care and still only be concerned with his child? We're talking about an 8-year-old. We're not talking about a 17-year-old that punched your 17-year-old in the face. We're talking about a child.
Right.
Do you understand?
I do understand.
Now,
what you're saying.
if you realize that this child, this 8-year-old, is homeless and doesn't have clean clothes to wear, for you to look at that situation and not do anything about it, not want to do anything about it, that's something that, anyone that has that stance might want to address in their own minds and in their own hearts. I don't believe that you are really putting yourself in this situation step by step, blow by blow, as though it's actually happening. I think you're hearing the story and kind of thinking about it in a surface kind of way.
No, not at all.
I do. Because I know you. And if an 8-year-old, even if he was bullying your child, told you that he was homeless and he didn't have clean clothes or clean sneakers to wear to school, I know you. And you would say to yourself, like, wow, that's why this kid is acting out. That's why this kid is so angry.
Right.
And Rashawn Casey would want to do something about it. You may sit here and say no, but I know you. And I know you would come home and have a conversation and it would go something like this, like, Gee, that kid really needs some help. I think we should take him shopping. I could see you absolutely 100% saying that.
I don't know. Maybe
we should do something for that kid.
It depends.
Yes.
If he stopped bullying my child, then maybe.
Rashawn,
but not on the road to get there.
No, I think so. Put it in perspective. We're talking about an 8-year-old child. What is that? 2nd grade?
8 years old. That is
2nd grade, I think.
2nd or 3rd grade. Yeah.
2nd grade, I think. We're talking about 2nd graders. Do you know what I mean? Like, a reasonable adult would say to themselves, like, wow, that's the reason why this kid has so much.
Yeah, I think 3rd grade, but
I don't think so. I think it's
2nd or 3rd.
Whichever way, it doesn't matter. But I think that a reasonable adult would say, like, wow, that's why this kid is acting out and being so mean, even though my son was the victim. And that would be a teaching moment. That would be a moment where you go home and you sit down with your 8-year-old and you explain to your 8-year-old what's happening and why that child was being so mean to him. You teach your child compassion and empathy and open-mindedness and forgiveness.
Right.
That's what you teach your child. You're saying, okay, well, I don't want to teach my child that it's okay to bully. I don't want to teach my child that, this kid bullied him and now I'm out here taking shopping so he can kick his ass with some new kicks on. Like, no, you teach your child the godly way of looking at things. That's what you teach your child. That's parenting. You teach your child lessons that they take and they carry with them throughout life.
So what's the godly way? The godly way is not to hit back, right? It's to turn your cheek, right? That is the quote unquote godly way. And
yeah. And I hold on. And
I'm not teaching my child that.
I do believe that initially you tell the teacher and you tell your parents. We've discussed that on previous podcasts before. I believe that that's how you handle someone that puts their hands on you in school.
Nah.
In school. I'm not talking about on the street and it's someone that you're not going to see again. That's not going to put you in a position where you develop a reputation for yourself or it can cause problems.
I don't agree.
I'm not talking about that. But in school, when we're talking about children, I think someone puts their hands on you, you tell.
I don't agree.
Okay, well, we disagree on that. And we've already talked about that. You can teach your child that at the same time, but the godly way in this situation would be for the father to go home, explain to his child what's going on, and say, why don't all 3 of us go shopping and get this kid some of the things that he needs? And then let's see if that changes his attitude. Let's see if his behavior changes at that point.
I don't agree. I mean, we can have that conversation after he stops bullying my kid. But you just said something. Yeah, he's not 17 years old and he's not a fight. Yeah, okay, he's not 17 years old. But there's so many cases where kids like this 11-year-old kid, right? I'm not going to say the name. He was bullied because he was small for his age and wound up killing himself. So he was 11 years old, 8-year-old kid. He just came out the closet and he said he was gay and he was bullied and he wound up killing himself. 10-year-old kid. This was a female. She was bullied and taunted and she wound up killing herself. 12-year-old. 6-year-old. Like, these are kids that are killing themselves. It has nothing to do with 17 years old. Right, it really happens. And my whole thing is...
But punching the kid in the face isn't going to stop these kids from hurting themselves because they're hurt inside. What you're proposing isn't the answer.
What am I proposing?
That defending yourself and hitting a kid that hits you is going to solve all of their emotional issues from being bullied.
I do think that.
No, it comes from parenting.
I do think
Hold on. It comes from parenting and having a soft place to land when they get home. If they're being bullied at school, to come home and be able to talk to their parents and talk to people that love them, that can help them, not only by conversation, but yes, by going to the school, by getting to the root of the problem, by solving it or remedying it before it turns into a monster that destroys these children. Do you understand what I'm saying? And giving your children as much information as you can, coupled with love and guidance, that is parenting.
Okay.
That's parenting.
In your opinion, I don't agree.
These kids didn't commit suicide because they didn't punch somebody in the face.
I didn't say anything about they didn't commit suicide by punching in their face. I said that I feel like as a parent, I teach my kid, if somebody does something to you, you defend yourself. If somebody says something about you, you defend yourself. If somebody hits you, you defend yourself. If they're talking about you, you talk about them back.
I believe in defending
And the reason
yourself.
I believe that is because I believe it builds a confidence in you that you feel like no matter who comes at you, I have the confidence and the willpower to come back and it never bothers you. And that's what I feel. I feel like
I don't disagree with
if somebody hits my kid, yes, they are supposed to. If you hit my kid, you got the nerve to reach out and smack my kid or punch my kid or with a slap, whatever it may be. My kid's gonna do it back immediately, and you know what that's gonna do 9 times out of 10? That's gonna make the motherfucker, the person say, you know what? That's gonna make the person say, you know what? I'm not gonna slap this kid anymore because I know he's gonna hit me back. Maybe, you know what? Maybe I'm not gonna hit anybody anymore because I don't want to get hit back the way that he just got hit me back. And I see that being the way a lot of bullies stop their bullshit, because why do people usually bully? One, because they know they could get away with it. I'm not gonna bully somebody that's gonna fuck me up back, or bully somebody that's gonna do something back to me. I'm not, because then it's a fight, and I don't want to fight. Most bullies don't want to fight, but I'm a bully somebody that I can. And once they realize that they can't, they stop immediately. Just like people on social media. What happens when somebody goes at you on social media? They can go at you 7 times. You go at them back 1 time.
And they backpedal.
And what usually happens?
They apologize, they backpedal.
Right. And why is that?
Because they're not really strong to begin with.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm teaching my kids when it comes to it.
Okay. See, let me try to explain what I think is missing here. Okay. You said that you want to make sure that your child has the nerve and that your child has the confidence. A person can have nerve, all the nerve in the world and all of the confidence in the world, and not act out and not use that nerve and that confidence as an excuse or a reason to punch somebody in the face. Confidence and nerve can also show itself in the form of self-control. Do you understand? A strong person isn't just a person that acts out. A strong person is a person that can also be reserved when they choose to. So to me, good parenting is giving your child that nerve and that confidence where, someone can bully them and they can recognize it and decide how they want to move forward. But it's a decision. It's a matter of self-control. And a child that's being parented well and being taught well can discern when that is called for and when it's not. when it's in their best interest and when it's not. I'm not going to just give a general answer because each situation is a case by case thing. There's no one answer. There may be a time where a child's being bullied that in that moment, the other kid might need to get punched in the face. Yes, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
But then there are times where a child might have to sit back and say, you know, that's not my best interest right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I think it's in my best interest to tell the teacher and to tell my parents and let them handle it. And if that doesn't work when they tell the teacher, then maybe the parents need to go a step further. And this person, his name is Aubrey, he went a step further. He went and spoke to the child. But you can't tell me, no one can tell me that after identifying that this child, this 8-year-old is suffering themselves and being hurt themselves, and as a reasonable adult to be able to identify that that is the reason why they're acting out, and to pull back and decide not to do anything about it, not to help that child, knowing that that child doesn't have anyone to help them, is unreasonable to me. It's unreasonable. We do what we can to help anybody that we can that needs help. Like, you do what you can. If you see somebody that's in need and you turn your back and then create an excuse for it, that's no good. Like, that's no good. Like, you have to stop and examine that. You have to think about that, because now we're talking about kids. And let me tell you, you can simultaneously put your child first, teach them nerve and confidence, and help a child that's hurting them because there's nobody there to teach them the same and to provide for them.
Okay.
You can do them both at the same time. It's not a choice. It's not one or the other. You can do both. And at the same time, you can give your child a gem.
Okay. We can agree to disagree. I don't agree. My whole thing is I'm going to protect my child.
Why can't you protect your child and help another child at the same time? Answer me that. Okay. Why can't you?
All right, because you never know what a child's intention was or what they're considering doing. How old was the girl that cut your face?
She was 17.
17. And there was a bunch of girls, and the ages range from how old to how old? The girls that jumped you and cut your face.
They were all about 17.
There was some that was 16, there was some that was 15, and there was some that was 17. A 15-year-old cut your face, or was a part of the people that jumped you and cut your face, correct?
Okay.
Now, that's a 15-year-old that, honestly, I don't give a fuck about. I don't want to help. I don't. You got the galls and the cojones and the balls to jump somebody and cut their face. I don't want to help you. That's me. I want to protect my kids. That's like your mom coming in with, like, the girl who, jumped you. You know what? I spoke to them, and, they, whatever's happening in their family, they're not living right. So, I'm going to take them shopping because I understand where this bullying's coming from. Fuck that.
Okay. So, that's not a fair analogy.
Bully is a bully to me.
No, not necessarily.
That's how I feel.
First of all, we're talking about 17-year-old girls. That's number one. And number two, we're talking about girls that were carrying around blades with the deliberate intention of cutting people's faces.
I honestly don't know.
So that's a completely different scenario. Like I said, it's a case by case thing. But I tell you one thing. If someone credible came to me with a story or a testimonial as to why that girl did what she did, and if it was something that I was able to understand, not to say that I'd be like, hey, let's be best friends, but I would at the time, I wasn't taught about forgiveness and things of that nature, but had I known then what I know now, and there was a reason to forgive her, I would have been able to forgive her at that time.
Oh, well, you're nicer than me. I know
what I'm saying is that
your dad was not forgiving her.
Like I said, I wasn't taught.
Yes or no?
I wasn't taught, like a lot of us.
Would your dad have forgiven that girl?
My father wouldn't have. No. But what I'm trying to tell you is
that, why? Because you're his daughter.
This is my hold on, but listen, stop. This is my point. It's about being better.
And I'm the same way with my kids.
When I was that age, I never sat down with my parents and had conversations about forgiveness and looking deeper into a situation, and not just looking at what people do, but looking at why people do the things that they do. The why is so much more important to me than the action. And that's where forgiveness comes in. Forgiveness comes in when you seek to understand the why. And that's very important to me, because what people do, that's superficial. That comes from somewhere. People are who they are based on a series of experiences, based on what they've learned, what they've been taught. And a lot of times, I'm going to be honest with you, you can't 100% fault people for where they end up.
Oh, yes, I can.
Not 100%.
Yes, I
can. Not 100%.
Because you was
my point
touched as a kid. You want to touch my kid, and I'm supposed to forgive you and understand. Oh, I understand you touched my kid because you were touched as a kid. Fuck that. I'm not understand. I don't have to understand, nor do I have to forgive. I don't have to.
See, but what you're confusing is understanding something and tolerating something. Yes, if someone is touched as a kid and they grow up to become a pedophile, I can understand how they became a pedophile. Does it make it okay? No. Should it be tolerated? No. But can you understand where it came from and why they became that? Yes, you can understand it. Do they need to be stopped? Yes, they need to be stopped, clearly. But I'm just talking about the first step of just understanding people. And when we stop being concerned with understanding people, then society and the sense of community just goes to hell in a wheelbarrow. We have to have compassion. We have to have empathy. We have to freaking care about people, and not just the people that live under our roof.
No, I do care about people, and I care about a lot of people, and I help a lot of people. I absolutely positively do. And I will continue to. But when you fuck with my kids or fuck with my family, I don't fuck with you. That's who I am for life. That's how I was raised. That's how my dad raised me, and that's how I'll continue to be. If you fuck with my family, there is no apologizing. And if you do apologize, that's for yourself, because I will still look at you as a clown. I will still look at you as how I look at you. And that's who I am as a person. I am trying to be better as a person, but I am not there. Well, it is who it is. If you talked about my kids or you talked about my wife, just know we have problems for life.
I understand.
Now, we don't have to fight each other every time we see it. I just don't fuck with you, and you don't fuck with me.
My problem with what you're saying is that it's extraordinarily absolute, and it's absolutely concrete. Like, what you're saying is that there is no bend, there's no exceptions, there's no wiggle room. And I don't think that that applies to life, period, where there's no bend, there's no understanding, there's no wiggle room, there's no exception. There should be bend, wiggle room, and exception to most things. Maybe not all things, but to most things. So you mean to tell me that you're not interested in understanding people?
No, I'm not.
Well, that's where you and I are different. And that's why we have a difference of opinion in this scenario. I care, and it's a shame because you care about people.
I do.
Sometimes I think that you care about people too much. Mm-hmm. And I'm a person, I'm no wuss. I'm very protective of my family. I think that a lot of time I go through life with an iron fist. Like, I'm no pushover. And at the same time, I can care about people and go the extra mile or think outside of the box or be open-minded when it comes to people, even if they harm me and mine. I think that you can do both. It's, in my opinion, what being well-rounded is about. But being so absolute and so just decisive, and that leading the way that you approach situations is I'll just leave it to say that I don't think that it's good. I think that there's room for improvement there.
Okay.
All right.
Well, we have to go. We've been talking this for 35 minutes and I got to get to work. So we will see you in a day or so for the regular KC Crew podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And
leave a comment and let us know what you think.
That's right.
I'd like to know where you guys stand.
Okay.
with this. Just leave it under the last picture, or, you know, if we put a post up to let you guys know that the podcast is out.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see you guys in a couple of days for the Casey Group podcast. I'm DJ Envy.
And I am Gia Casey.
And that was another edition of Pillow Talk with the Casey Crew.
Toodles.